Okay, so another jam-packed agenda. Hopefully we'll get out of here before we did last time. So going on to apologies for absence. Probably going to start with an apology for appearance. I don't know. So firstly, for absence, just to formally thank Jack as clerk. We did have a little bit of a soiree after the meeting last time, and gave him some very nice wine glasses. So if you go around at Jack's for wine, he's got some really special glasses. And I'd like to welcome Amanda, right, who's taken on the clear the area without those reports being present. I have to say, personally, I'm very disappointed. I don't think it's acceptable for people in the village to take.
Shouldn't have been chopped down trees. So, you know, if I walked into your garden and start chopping stuff down, it would be a criminal act. So surely, if someone's come onto our ground, it's a criminal act, and we should write to the police to complain.
Or
register that.
I mean, I think it can come under aggravated trespass. But I'm not a lawyer, so.
But I think it needs to be done.
Okay.
I mean, a letter from you and the clerk to the police, or an email to the police about this, because it's a deliberate act of destruction on our property.
Okay. I mean,
It's just, isn't it?
I mean, that's it's as far as I can see, it's word got round that people are just smarting the place up.
But they're not. They're deliberately gone against the council's decision.
In that instance. Also, I think one unnamed resident said to me, "I thought the council did that every 2 years anyway."
Yes, just to add to that, what I've done, this was actually produced 2 years ago. James was one of the people who came down and helped on that first time.
is that the mention? So we've actually got an agenda item on that.
Yeah, no, I printed it off because Nick said he hadn't seen it, so this was produced 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think
I thought I'd bring it down because I didn't know.
And we'll discuss it, I think, later on in the meeting.
But I just thought for another meeting to take away, but it was, my problem, sorry, just to go back on this, is the programme was set out to do it in October and November once the second breeding seasons were over.
Okay, so I think we're going to have to do that in the agenda.
So I do think that we need to write a formal complaint.
Okay. All right.
Are we yes, we're going to do that. Thank you.
Yeah. But, I mean, if you want, we can take a formal vote.
No, I don't know. I think it's up to you, your choice.
I'm as angry as an angry thing.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's acceptable, and that's my position. Okay, so we'll write.
Could I say something on the same point, if that's okay?
If you'd like to.
I mean, I'm equally very upset that, you know, we were going to make a decision in this meeting and we now can't really. I think the council has very little power, really. The only power we've got, really, is over the land that we own, and we own it on behalf of the village. And I think we're therefore guardians of that land for the whole of the parish. I think individual councillors have got no power whatsoever, as far as I can see, really. They can't make any decisions, can't enter into any contracts. We can only do things when the council as a whole agrees to them. And I think we just need to be careful with that. I think we have had some difficulties since we started as councillors, in that we didn't have a clerk, and Simon was the only previous councillor, so we've all been sort of finding our feet a bit. I think in mitigation to people who've taken the action, I think we were given some informal advice that basically the council couldn't look for volunteers to do basic maintenance tasks because of potential insurance problems. I've now seen some more advice that perhaps we can in some circumstances, but I think what has maybe happened on a few occasions is that some basic gardening tasks on council land have been undertaken by local residents informally, and I suspect that what's happened down at the IROS is a sort of excessive sort of further example of that. So I think, I know it's not an agenda item, we can't necessarily have a proposal, but I think what we should look at is that the new staffing committee should look at coming up with a volunteer policy, so that if there are tasks like this that can be done by volunteers, that it can be formally agreed by council that we will look for volunteers to do a task. And we need to make sure that if it's done in that way, that means those people are covered by insurance. So I think that's something we could come up with by the next meeting. And I would say that until that is in place, no voluntary action should happen until we're certain that it is insured and appropriate.
Absolutely. So we have put in, have taken advice from our new clerk. So our plan is to get a volunteer system in place, but we have to discuss that at the meeting.
Because I've missed the last 2 meetings, where's the action list kept?
I circulated to everyone regularly.
Right, okay, thank you. Yeah, so, I'll sort of try and play.
Very present. And even they even brought the Police and Crime Commissioner down with them on one occasion to show them what's going on. They continue to send plainclothes policemen on a regular basis. Unfortunately, their action is to do with drugs and not to do with parking, which is a bit of a shame. There was one report of an intruder at night. During the middle of the night, police were deployed, and although the call was made with good intentions, no offences were identified. There was a civil issue the police were called to in Pickmere, which they've explained to the resident. It's a civil issue and there's lots of things they can do. One person was stopped in Pickmere for drunk driving, was subsequently arrested and referred to court. And there was one incident of blackmail, and that's under investigation.
What did you say? Blackmail.
Yeah. And the police have requested that if, as they always do, if we see illegal parking, then residents should dial 101. And depending on the workload, they will try and deploy someone down to the but anything else to do for more serious nature, like drug taking or drunk driving, people should dial 999. So that was the update from the police. We also have an update from Kate Parkinson, who has been quite present in previous meetings, but was unable to make it today. She has been following up on the public space protection order. The response from Cheshire East is that they're obviously not pursuing. So we've got a bit of a hiatus in collecting data, which is what we need to reduce the speeds. But Kate and
that was PCS.
I can still shout at people to start there.
yeah, I mean we do have people in the village who are trained, but the problem we have now at the moment is the policy was found to be out of date. So Cheshire Police are not allowed to train anyone new until their policy has been updated, and so we're sort of stuck unless the people that are trained relent and decide to help. Then we won't be collecting any data, and this will be delayed until we've got data.
Perfect catch-22.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, sorry.
The one thing about that they were saying though at this forum as well, I think there has been another update since then with highways that we have had the offer, I believe, of the CE cameras that we've got here are our responsibility.
Okay.
They were handed over to us. And we now have the opportunity, I believe, to have one that will flash the speed that the cars are doing.
That one used to flash the speed.
Yeah, but it just flashed 30. It's a different time, yeah. There's been an update from
I just want to say something. I don't think the camera. I don't think the cameras are ours.
We were told by answer that they are.
Yeah, they're not ours. Because we did have some. We also had some off And because we've got those which were looked after, we got rid of ours to another council, the ones we specifically owned.
Because the ones that we actually want or we could do with using are the ones that actually record.
Record it, yeah. But those aren't ours.
Right, because might well have the option of borrowing one that will record.
Yeah, they've always had one or two that you can round and do.
Yeah.
You can borrow.
But if we're sure that they're not ours, then can I ask you to write
take that one.
to Kate?
Yeah, they are definitely not ours because we were given three, and so we got rid of the ones that we bought. We sold them on to another
And
council.
they do record, but they don't read them.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll follow up on that then.
Are all three broken?
No.
No.
Just one?
That one works sometimes.
They all seem to. Sometimes.
They work if you speed.
Well, I wouldn't know that, Jane. Moving quickly.
Well, that's obviously nobody's been speeding.
Report. When did that complete? Was that next week? Which was it? Was it in the batch of?
Stuff today.
Oh, my email's not working today for some reason.
So it's all on the OneDrive now.
Yeah, I couldn't get that up either anymore. That's fine.
Is that one from Kate?
Yes.
Okay, so crack on. Finance. So obviously the first item is to note the financial position. Those of us that actually bank account can note the financial position, but unfortunately the clerk does not yet have access to the bank
Sorry
account.
about that.
So there is no report, and that will be forwarded to members of the council as soon as we can get the new clerk on.
Yeah, I will hopefully, once you've agreed that I can be on the bank, which is the next one, I'll hopefully be on in the next couple of weeks, and I'll send it in between meetings of information. Apologies for that.
Okay. Second item is to note and approve and authorise new payments.
I haven't got that either.
No, we can't do that. And then the next item is to approve the new clerk onto the bank account and take the old clerk off.
Okay? Yes. Thank you.
Excellent. And then we have one retrospective payment, which was for a emergency safety issue. So as you're all aware, we had a builder here repairing the outside area. During that time there was the storm, and we ended up with some cracked clay tiles. So as an emergency, as they were here, rather than getting back and getting another quote, we probably ended up spending more money. Peter had them replace the tiles. It was only £60, so it's under the spending limit of our emergency delegation. So as long as everyone's happy with that.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, we'll have to come back and take the tiles off and we'll get wet. Okay, so on to planning matters. So I think this one's yours, Peter.
There's not very much going on this the last month at all, except the planning application that was in Roll Lane for Haggle Farm, that has been withdrawn now.
Okay.
Apparently it's all for sale, but we're still in the situation of there's a house sort of been built on the site as to what we do with that next.
Okay. So is that something that we should ask enforcement?
Then we need to contact Cheshire East, presumably.
Yeah, again, it's just added to the list of requests to for enforcement.
Okay.
Our very long list.
So I'm writing to enforcement about Haggle Farm because
There was a building put up without planning permission, which was then put in for retrospective planning permission, but that application has now been withdrawn.
right, okay, but the building's there.
Yeah, the building's been there for some time. So it's just a case of understanding
Okay.
what happens there. Okay.
When, if we're talking planning, when did we last have an update from Cheshire East about the other outstanding matters? The last one I saw in minutes was some months ago.
Yeah, but from the meeting before last, Jack was going to write to them.
I think Jack did last month.
Yeah.
I believe you don't get any response from them, from what I can gather, or it's very difficult to get a response from them.
They tend to have a wall of silence.
Okay.
They sometimes respond, but it's never really anything productive. But it's just a case of keeping on the
Keep
back
going.
of the field, yeah.
Okay.
Because I think in terms of Spinks Lane, I believe we're about to reach the point where if it doesn't get enforced in the next 12 months or so, then it will just be allowed to remain.
And that's why Jack was waiting just to find out what the situation is.
Okay. Is there any more escalation that we can do other than just writing to them?
I mean, it's been a case of we've written to pretty much everybody that can be written to, and Cheshire East have just not bothered to enforce it. I mean, it has gone to MPs, it's gone to the House, relevant people in Parliament, it's gone to the police, and there's a lack of interest in enforcing it, basically. All we can do is
Can't enforce it without court orders, so
carry on.
I'm sure they are interested until something happens.
And is there not a councillor in charge of planning at Cheshire East that we can talk to?
We've written, tried to speak to. I mean, it's been a. To be honest with you, I mean, if the chair is happy, I think the best person to actually, who has been on top of that, is Andrew Shaw, who can sort of fill us in a bit more. If you're happy for him to just tell us where we stand with the Spinks Lane situation.
Do you have to do that, Andrew?
Sorry to drop you, but you have more knowledge about that.
I mean,
You've been pursuing it.
just listening to you, I really would keep writing.
Yeah.
Just to anybody. So, you know, the chief exec, whatever, just keep writing and pointing out that their last letter to us was that once the local plan was complete and they identified gypsy and traveller sites, then they would reaction the enforcement on Spinks Lane. So we are well overdue that reaction taking place. And I think unless you honestly keep going, Cheshire East won't. You know, I think it's a case of really keeping going. And maybe at some point you have to threaten the legal route, because you have got a position that you could take legal action against Cheshire East for not enforcing.
It's gone right to the top, hasn't it? The enforcement order has gone right to the top.
Yeah, I mean, the Secretary of State
Yes,
made the decision after the public inquiry that they should not stay on the site.
I mean, maybe it's worth writing, because we've got new Secretary of State in place and things. Maybe it's doing a copy of the letter to everybody and anybody.
I would leave my leader of council in particular.
Leader of the council, maybe the police.
I don't know what the police could do.
No, I don't think it's a police matter.
It's about making it aware, isn't it? So it's about awareness on their front, because if they get that, then there's a question they can ask Cheshire East as
Just
to why they've done.
one more thing I'll bring to your attention is that, of course, at the end of Spinks Lane you have the traveller site, which is the one we're talking about. But you have 3.5 acres of land which is essentially occupied by 128 plots, bought as essentially building in the future land, of which once Spinks Lane at the bottom is ratified as being normal, then you've got this whole host of other land which it would be difficult for Cheshire East to fight against in the future.
It's infill, isn't it?
Okay? So there was this thing called land banking, which essentially was sold off in 120 square yards plots to 127 people.
No, thanks to see if it's okay. So maybe the actual fact is the planning team and the clerk look at the options that we have.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess that legal action is an expensive thing to do. I mean, it's for parish council.
I think it's more the threat.
This is one of the things that Cheshire East, why they don't do enforcement, because the legal side of it is very, very expensive. The other side, again, is Cheshire East don't have a chief executive anymore, do they?
Well, they've resigned, but they're still there. That's what I understand.
I thought she'd lost her.
We'll check that out.
I thought she'd gone to Bradford City Council.
Okay. I don't think
must have
she's left, but
She has.
we will check and come back. Okay, so we'll leave that with you guys.
An extra 30,000.
Maybe if you've got some stuff to update us on, we'll put it on the agenda for next month.
You haven't got a planning committee yet.
Not yet, no. We're working. That's another thing we need to do.
So I will write to all these people and you will have a planning committee meeting, hopefully, and then you'll have a planning committee for the next meeting.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. So moving on. So 9.1 is to adopt the General Powers of Competence. So you've all had your briefing document. So I'm sure you've all read it and understood it, but just to give you a summary. So a parish council, as you'll probably all remember from your training, is only allowed to do those things that are legally written down for them to do. If we adopt the General Power of Competence, we can act as if we are an individual, so to do what an individual would reasonably do. And in order to do that, the parish council first of all has to have 2/3 of its members at the time of the annual meeting elected members, and the clerk has to be qualified. So the previous council obviously didn't have a qualified clerk and didn't have elected members, but we do, so we can I guess take on the powers of an individual.
Trouble is, we didn't have a clerk that was qualified when we had the annual meeting.
Oh no, it's at that point.
Ah, right.
Not at the, you don't have to do it at the meeting.
Yeah, you can agree it now and then you have to agree it every year.
Yeah.
So we come
It's
to the
not
annual meeting.
something forever, it's just for the
Right, yeah.
rest of this year.
So if we so imagine if we had attrition of people left and we co-opted, if we get to an annual meeting less than 2/3 elected members, then we're no longer eligible and we'd have to revert back to the old system.
Okay.
But currently we are 100% eligible. Okay,
Yeah.
agreed?
Result, would you?
That's what the previous one was. There's only one co-opted member on there. Previous council only had one co-opted member, the rest had been elected.
Elected by a poll.
Yes.
By through the election, yeah.
So people voted.
There was no contested places, so it was automatic.
They were elected. No?
Oh, yes, they were. Sorry, but yes, they were.
Yes.
Completely elected. I've no doubt about it. People.
But I'm not a lawyer, so okay. Next item. Consider the revised Cheshire East Code of Conduct.
My understanding is that you've agreed to previous version. I'm sorry, I've not had time to put two next to each other, but that this is the updated version and that you need to re-agree it if you're happy to do that.
All right. Energy providers, Peter. It's your night tonight, isn't it?
Yes, I've got to provide all the...
Free till the end of this financial year.
I think it was originally on the 3 monthly thing to review and check
Yes.
first.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's
And that Wendy will, and has done, or has tried, but I'll check with her.
I'm sure, I'm thinking just coming up to winter and the cost of heating.
Yeah, that's Wendy, we'll talk about it.
Quote from the insurance company, £2,083.77p. Obviously, as a body, we can't have no insurance, so
How does that compare to the previous, please?
I don't know, how awful is that? I don't know, because I've only received this week. I know that it's provided through a broker's, so I imagine that it would be the best price, and that covers...
Day or any other sort of
But would
event.
it cover the fun day?
Would this cover a fun day?
lots of no horses.
Probably not.
No, that's fine.
I can't say definitively, but probably not. You probably have to...
Right, so the next item is to do with our favourite topic, HS2. So in the interim between the last two meetings, two submissions were made on behalf of the Pickmere Parish Council. So it's
And Chris,
council meetings, or you hold an extraordinary meeting, and as long as 3 of you attend, you can still make a decision. You need 3 councillors to make a decision.
just a bit more information, I suppose, when we're considering this, that there are, as well as the actual submissions, that, you know, we don't know, there will be an AP3, there are actions to be taken, meetings to be had. So I think, you know, they don't, and see what
Okay,
everyone thinks.
and then you're going to, this committee has yet to meet and to have a chairman and to put together terms of reference, but we'll do that before, and then you have a committee.
Gives a bit of flexibility, doesn't it?
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. All right. Okay, so item 9.9, that's you, Alison, so a report on the meeting of the councils.
Yep. Last minute. It was very good. It was attended. There was people there from Great Walford, Millington and Rossford, and Lower Beaver. The main concern throughout it all was the lack of response from Cheshire East. Everybody complained about that. The lack of police engagement, speeding issues, planning, delays in enforcement, and the general poor performance of Cheshire East. One of the suggestions that came out of that was that they were going to speak to Cheshire East. This is Knutsford that were leading it, Andy Keppel. They were going to speak to Cheshire East and suggest that each council, each clerk has a specific person on Cheshire East where they can contact them, and that will be their one point of contact with Cheshire East. It's just an idea that was going ahead. There was loads of talk on SIDS, speeding issues, speed cameras, all those sorts of things as well. It was a great sharing event, actually, with a lot of people saying that they wanted to reach out and maybe be involved in our HS2 situation. There was a fellow from Highley, and I can't remember his name now, but he suggests that would be great.
Nigel.
Yeah. He would really very much appreciate all the councils in the area getting together as a united front for HS2, which I thought was a very good idea. Andy Keppel has said that he's going to issue some minutes. I don't know.
He hasn't sent them yet.
He's not sent them yet, because mine were just notes that we made throughout the meeting and meeting people. The speed watch, the issue was interesting, because that was where we then had the offer of this mobile SID that we could share amongst the different councils, because other councils are having the same sorts of things as well. That was an ongoing thing. And then one thing that came up was the idea of a town ranger. Apparently Northwich have a town ranger that can be hired, and they come out regularly, we pay them, and they go around the village and they look at various things that need doing, and they can either do it and you can pay them. It's an option there that is available.
Okay, we can take more information, bring that to a future meeting.
Yeah, I have.
What's everyone going to say? Issue parking tickets.
I wrote to Chris Shaw from Cheshire, from Cheshire West, and he said yes, but he's away on holiday, so he hasn't come back to me yet on that.
Okay.
What else was there? Manchester Airport.
We've discussed that before.
It is something that they are going to have a presentation on shortly, that they want all parish councils again in the area to get together to discuss the issues with Manchester Airport and future flight paths. I think they called it it's the airspace project. Okay. That they would like everyone again to be involved in that.
To remind everyone, that's the it's the Knutsford dogleg. So flights are not allowed to fly over Knutsford before 6 a.m. And in this new project, they've changed the flight plan, so we would have planes coming over us all night.
One of the interesting things was that they said they want to have up to 50 million people through the airport. They currently have about 28. And they envisaged having planes taking off a lot. I think it's 1.5 minutes between, and they want to push it to a minute. Yeah, that's what the ideal their plan is. So,
They did mention the prospect of a third runway.
yes, they did.
And again, the information communication guys, I suppose you all might know him, he's been in Knutsford for a long time, Jeff Gazzard.
Yeah.
It's been many years, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's going to be there next time to talk about this. The next meeting is probably going to be in November. They're going to hold them every 3 months.
Okay.
So they will be sending an invite out, and Andy Keppel, of course, will be sending full minutes, or he should be doing.
I'm sure he will.
It's a while ago, isn't it?
It's a lot of extra cars, isn't it?
Well,
Yeah.
Don't worry, HS2 will take them all off the road.
And the car parking as well, isn't it? There's more of Cheshire concreted over again.
It was very good to go.
Okay, thanks for the feedback. Thanks for stepping in. So the next item is 9.10. So just some updates on the parking measures. The IROS.
Okay. So I've picked up on this and contacted 7 different third-party parking companies, of which 4 expressed interest, 2 didn't, and not heard from the others. I have a meeting with one who are seem to be much more easier to deal with about the problems we have here. They understood more and have made proposals already. No costs involved at this point. We don't know because they need to come down and have a look. But they've been using the examples of a place called Durley, if you've not heard of it, where they operated more recently, and give options of, for example, the signs that could come up, and there are many of different types. Yeah. I'm not printing them all off, but it's just to show that you can have something subtle or in your face. That's up to us to decide. Yeah. They can operate our car parking by obviously charging, but it will be online. They are all online from the ones that have expressed any interest here, and very flexible in as much can be done by the hour, by the day, whatever, and whatever cost that we decide should be. They also, the one that I'm meeting on the 8th, also do permit parking, as do one of the others I'm talking to. The third one say they do, but they didn't think they could deal with us here because it's not, theirs isn't online. So I'll just pursue those 2 for the time being and see if anything else comes up. There's still some more information to come down the line, but first of all, to report back at the next meeting about this meeting on the 8th, and I'll be able to give you and share much more information about what's involved. But we do know it's possible, should people want. First of all, just to charge for parking, and secondly, to have permits.
Well, certainly I think the...
I actually went round from the Lane, the Orchards, all the way up Park Lane and everything off it. I think I got 22 people out, but the rest of the people were in all of the areas. And there was a couple of concerns as to would it push the problem into the estates if we didn't have permit parking in place. So that was one issue that was mentioned, that if we started to charge, would people actually start to pay or just move somewhere else? So I actually asked 2 questions. I asked, would you like us to start charging at the lake? I would say that it was about 99.5% who came up with yes they did, and all of those areas I covered. With regard to permit parking, I didn't have one. I had one person who actually said they would like to think about it, but every single other person wants it to happen now. There's a couple who wanted a bit of more information on it, and I said we didn't have any information on it, but would they like us to take it to the next level and everybody? So I think it was really
just to correct, so it wasn't put onto the Facebook site. So Cheshire East have a policy. All the information is in the policy. So if people have picked it up, so the online polls reflect the same scenario. The majority of people who answered the poll seem to be interested. There are quite a few people who aren't residents, but we know who they are, we can take them out. But very few people didn't want any parking controls. So the next stage would be to go to Cheshire East. And I mean, I'm surprised that companies can put in permit parking.
No, they need. We would need to first of all apply to Cheshire East. Okay. So that's a given. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mention that. I didn't know. We can't do it without having Cheshire East permission. Yeah. They obviously then abdicate responsibility. Yeah. The police, of course, are still involved.
Yeah. So I mean, the next stage would be to contact Cheshire East, then Cheshire East would do their own survey and ask the residents if they want it or not.
They will apply. This one I'm talking to on the 8th, they will apply for us, and they say it takes about 4 months for them to come back to us.
So that'll be in time for next year then?
Well, that's the
probably, but my understanding from the Cheshire East document is that they would do it.
Yes.
They will write to every household and say,
oh, yes, that's that as well, yes.
So we don't need to...
It's... without asking, it seems certainly the couple that have shown more interest, they're happy to take it as much on board as we want. Or, in other words, we can control as much as we want or hand it over to them. In particular, of course, what I find quite attractive is this, should we agree, and our residents agree, that this is something we want to do, then we can have our own wardens. Of course, we would, in the much the same way we have our own speeding people. So it's up to us to control. Clearly, obviously, also we get income from this as well. I have one question, please, Chairman, if I may ask, just get a flavour of what people think. We have the ability to increase our 8 parking spaces, we believe, to probably 14, I beg your pardon, sorry, by another 3. Which, should this go ahead, obviously gives us extra income. But would it be something we wanted? I don't know. And I wonder if people, just off the top of their heads, would think that's something we need to do. Obviously, we don't. It's not about making a decision now, but I can't make my mind up on that one.
Where's the extra 3, please?
Down at the bottom, in the lower car park.
What? Remove the grass?
No. Before the bottom fence, there's a big area there.
Right. Okay. Oh yeah. Right.
But I don't think we need to make a decision on that. I think for me, the information that Jane's collected and the information that's been collected online indicates that the village are interested in finding out. So I think my proposal is that we contact Cheshire East about permanent parking and ask them to start their process. And they can consult with our residents. And then I think what we need to know from the parking companies is, obviously they will put up all the signs, but what do we get from it?
Of course.
Yeah.
What's our income from it?
For us.
Because I think we can then use that income for other things. It's like a warden to go around putting all the barbecues out, whatever. But,
yes. I mean, I think if we could get the parking under control, I think that for me is the absolute be all and end all really of it all. But if you got an income from it as well, it would be very attractive to do other things with it. Yeah,
and I think when somebody went here when we had the surgery before, but there was a gentleman who was mentioning that, and they gave us an article from the Telegraph about something to do with how much it costs. So I think just by charging, we're going to start seeing a reduction in people coming.
I agree. I agree.
And we've had it, oddly enough, as I was talking on the phone with one of these companies the other day, walking the dog down through there, a chap was wanting to talk to. I said, hang on a minute, he said, where do I pay? So that's
So what do you say?
I actually had somebody come from Cheshire Wildlife Trust to see me, and they said they didn't know, they couldn't think of any area that was of natural beauty that you don't pay for to go on the car parks.
Yeah, so I think the proposal is that we seem to have an indication from the village that they want us to explore that. Well, so before we start that, can I just say on behalf of the residents what a fantastic event it was on Sunday.
Yeah.
And to all, I know it wasn't just you, but you were the
It was
the force
an
behind.
amazing group, yeah. It was. I was very happy more to see the kids come running down that thing. That was the thing.
Oh, that was very good, yeah.
The highlight, yeah.
I have to say I was very disappointed that the Prosecco and Pim stall got more money than the beer stall, but I
I
intend to
spent
come
more
back.
money on the Prims and Prosecco than I did on
I was going to mention that, yes. So if you could just let us know who is the winner. Yeah.
I
It's like the
will.
Apprentice,
Do you,
we
I
know
mean,
the rest
I've
money.
totted the money up if you want to know. I don't, I mean,
Well, I don't think it's a councilman.
Sure, leave it then,
Okay.
yeah.
But the discussion tonight is about the holding of a Christmas fair this December.
Yeah.
Whether we can delegate that to Lorraine and the clerk.
To not necessarily be a parish council event, but to talk to the people within the village who these events,
Yeah.
and to offer support from the parish council in terms of anything they may need, to have Lorraine as a liaison and to have a small budget in case they need any help with anything.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone?
No, I mean, I think we all want to see events in the village, and I think the parish council should be supporting those events in whatever way we reasonably can.
Yeah, whichever group runs them. Yeah.
Okay. So we will.
Well, hopefully the groups run it together. Really, we could, you know, nothing to stop us.
Yeah, well, it was a constructive meeting the other day, wasn't it, with the, on that one?
So, you know, it's at the end of the day, you know, Pickmere's at the front of it, and that's just all that matters. So.
Okay. So
That's okay.
decided
Yeah.
So what's your budget?
250.
250. But it doesn't have to be spent. But it's there if they need a little bit of help. Okay. And then we're back to Alison at 9:30. No, it's 5 to 9. So the grants from the neighbourhood plan. So we want to delegate function of applying for grants to the neighbourhood plan to the clerk and Alison.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No objections there.
Can I also ask as well, please, Chair?
You can ask.
The previous council allowed a contingency to the neighbourhood plan of funds, they, if I'm remembering rightly, that they said that, you know, if they didn't get the grant or anything else, that the parish council would pay so much towards it or make funds available for the neighbourhood plan.
I can
Is
look,
that
I can
still
look
the
at the
case?
current budget for you.
Yeah.
and
I mean,
come
what we
back
are
to you.
doing as well is looking at all possibilities of where we can have free, if you like, aid and help. But just in case we needed the services of a specialist in any way for help and advice.
I can look at the budget for you and tell
Thank
you
you.
what's in there,
Yeah, please, if you don't mind.
but you can't ask for money now.
Yeah.
So if I look in the budget and it isn't there, then you can go back to the next meeting and say,
Great.
yeah, okay.
All right. Okay, so to item 10 to consider a resolution to exclude the public and the press.
We need to turn the camera on. That's the press.
We're off. Bye.
Thank you very much.